Hello, Algebra 2. I am recording this video the week before our Thanksgiving break, and so I just want to take a moment to wish you all a really fantastic break. Hope that you have some wonderful, relaxing downtime. I hope you actually have time to get bored and just sit and do nothing or go out and just enjoy. The other good news is this is going to be a very short video so that we can get onto that vacation even sooner. All right, so this video is going to be about inverse functions, and this is going to play a big role when we get to the chapter in the new semester about logarithms and exponential functions, which are inversely related. Finding an inverse is actually like solving an equation for a particular variable, and they have some really important properties that we're going to investigate. So inverses, to start off with, some of those properties are reflections over the line y equals x. What that means, we have this little diagram down here with the dotted line. This black line here is the line y equals x. And notice we have the red equation and the blue equation, which represent inverses of each other. Notice that you have the point here 0, 3 on the blue equation. On the red equation is the point 3, 0. So what that shows is every point on a function has the inverse relation where you have switched the x and y values, which is a way you can actually graph your inverse. If you have one function, to graph the inverse, you just switch all your x and y values. So it's like switching your input and output. So if you look at this table here, the x values appear down here as the y values, and the y values appear as the x values. That is an indication that these are inversely related. Now, algebraically, I believe you guys did this back in Algebra 1, which I realize is a couple years ago. And what you did to find an inverse is you first switch the x and y. So whatever the equation is, wherever you have on y, you write it as x. Wherever there was an x, you write it as y. Then you work to actually isolate that new y value. And if it is an inverse, we replace the y with what we call, this is red, f inverse of x. All right, so let's actually see how this works. Find the inverse of each function. So f of x is just another name for y, so I'm going to call it y. So our first step is to switch the x and the y. So this will become x equals 3y minus 1, and we want to now isolate the y value. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides. So that gives me x plus 1 equals 3y. And then the last step is we divide by 3 so that those cancel. Y is isolated. And so we now write this as f inverse of x is x plus 1 over 3. And that is an inverse function of y equals 3x minus 1. If we were to graph each of them, they would be a reflection over the line y equals x. All right, let's just go ahead and try one more. So remember, the first thing you do, if it's written as f of x, just go ahead and call that y. We switch our x and our y, so this will be x equals 2/3 y plus 4. And the first thing we'll do is subtract 4 from both sides. And so we have x minus 4 equals 2/3 times y. And the goal is to isolate y, so I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal and put this in parentheses. And so now what we have is our y isolated, and we now call this f inverse of x equals 3/2 parentheses x minus 4. And those are inverse functions. Okay, So it is supposedly a function. This is a little bit loose, and if you keep going on to, say, math analysis or pre-calc, you will discover only certain functions get the sort of honor of being called F inverse, but for right now, we're just gonna go ahead and call everything F inverse once you have done sort of that process. Now, hopefully you remember something called the vertical line test. The vertical line test tells us whether the function we have just graphed is in fact a function, meaning I'm going to kind of give an example up above. So function versus not a function. So something is a function if it passes the vertical line test, meaning as I run my finger down it, I only cross the graph once. If something is not a function, like if I had a sideways parabola, notice that when I cross it at two different places. That is not a function. Okay, so wouldn't it be nice if I could tell whether the inverse is a function without actually having to find it? And sometimes that's helpful to know whether something is one-to-one. Well, we have something, and that is called the horizontal line test. The horizontal line test is a predictor. It can predict, if it passes the horizontal line test, that the inverse of a function is also a function. So I would know that the inverse would pass the vertical line test by doing the horizontal line test. I know that sounded really confusing. Let me kind of give you an example. Back up above what we have here where we did our function. I'm trying to erase this and it doesn't seem to want to erase. That's okay. So if I were to have, say, this graph right here, and I want to know, okay, let's say I found the inverse of that. Well, I don't want the inverse of that might be really hard to find, but I want to know whether that inverse will be a function. Will it also pass a vertical line test? Well, what I would do is I would do the horizontal line test. Since I cross this graph at many different places, I know that its inverse, whatever that is not going to be a function. I don't even have to find the inverse to be able to tell that. It's as easy as that. So it's a predictor. Without having to find the inverse, I can tell whether the inverse would be a function, just from the original function. Okay, so here we have a couple functions and we want to use the horizontal line test. The way this works is you would have to know how to graph these. So this first one is a parabola. Remember that the 2 represents a vertical dilation. The +1 is a vertical translation, up 1. So 2 would be, make this a little bit skinnier. So there's what that graph would look like. If I were to do the horizontal line test on this, notice I cross it more than one place. That tells me that the inverse is not a function. Okay, well, let's look at what happens if we actually find that inverse. So again, the process is we let this be y, and I go x equals 2y squared plus 1. And so we subtract 1 from both sides. And then we're going to divide by 2. So we go through this, and that gives me x minus 1 over 2 equals y squared. We want to solve for y. So notice then I have to put a plus or minus the square root. So we have actually y equals plus or minus the square root of x minus 1 over 2. Now, we have not really looked at sideways parabolas, and we have not done the graphing of your radical functions yet. So I don't expect you necessarily to know how to graph these. So I'm just giving you these examples to show you visually. There's no expectation that you're going to know how to graph these yet. But if I were to graph that, it would look something, well, actually, let me go back. And remember, this is the point 0, 1, so we know the point 1, 0 will be on my graph, and it's going to be a sideways parabola. Because remember, these are reflections over the line y equals x. So if you know the one graph, you can find the other graph. And so notice that this does not pass the vertical line test, which also verifies it's not a function. All right, so again, this next one, this is kind of a preview of things to come. A graph like this, in general, without the plus or minus, are going to have this shape to them. They're like half a branch of a sideways parabola. So this one is going to be based at, let's see, it's going to be based at x equals 3 is where it's going to start, and it's going to look something like this. And notice, this one does pass the horizontal line test, so we do know its inverse will also be a function. So let's look at what that inverse would look like. If I had y equals x here, and this is the point 3, 0, so 0, 3 would be here, this function would look like this. All right, well, let's see. So we are going to, I kind of obliterated the equation there, y equals 2 times x minus 3. Let's find our inverse. So x equals 2 times the square root of y minus 3. So the first thing we'll do is divide by 2. And that is gone. And so I want to get rid of that radical, so I'm going to square both sides. So I have x squared over 4 equals y minus 3. And that's going to then, to isolate the y, add 3 to both sides. And instead of a y, we have our f inverse. So notice your inverse function is a quadratic. Now, we could get into some specifics about limiting the domain, limiting the range so that the two functions agree. We're not going to get that detailed this year. We just want you to have the general concept that the inverse, you switch the x and the y, and then you isolate the y. That will give you an inverse relation. And there's a lot more detail to it, but that kind of gives us the beginnings so that we can then, as we progress into the next chapter, you can look at a couple of really important functions that are inversely related. So how do you show that something truly is the inverse? How do you know you found the right inverse? So the way that works is something called the composition of functions. If I were to substitute one function into the other and simplify it, the result, the way that looks, is what you have here. So here's f of g of x. This is how we would say this function. F of g of x. And we write that as f of g of x. So you have substituted the one function into the other. When you go through and simplify it, if the result is just x, and done it the opposite way, g of f of x, and simplified that and got back just x, you know the two are inverses. So there's a really common one you guys are aware of. What if f of x was, say, the square root of x? G of x, let's say, was x squared. So f of g of x is, well, the square root of x, and now we're going to plug, we are going to substitute wherever we see an x, we are going to substitute in x squared. So it would look like this, the square root of x squared. Notice those cancel and you get back x. Your square root and your quadratic are actually inverses of each other because they cancel each other out and leave you with x. So we want to verify that 3x minus 1 and g of x equals x plus 1 over 3 are these truly inverses. To do this, you're going to do two things. You're going to do f of g of x And then you're also going to do g of f of x. We want to verify it both ways, hopefully that we get x when we simplify it. So the way I do this is I'm going to take my outside function. F is called the outside function. It's outside all your parentheses. So that's 3x minus 1. So instead of an x, we're going to leave that blank because whatever's in the parenthesis, that is what's going to get substituted in for x. Well, what is g of x? G of x is x plus 1 divided by 3 minus 1. And now we just simplify. So the 3's will cancel, and that gives me x plus 1 minus 1, and that gave us just x. All right, so it worked fine in that direction. Now let's do it in the other direction. So g of x is x plus 1 over 3. So where I have an x, I'm going to just kind of leave this open because that's where your f of x is going to go. So you have your x plus 1 divided by 3. So let's put in our f of x. Our f of x was 3x minus 1 plus 1 over 3. So when we simplify this, well, these 1's are going to cancel. That leaves me with 3x over 3, and those cancel, and we got back x. So we know that g of x and f of x are inversely related. And that's how you can tell. Just by substituting one into the other, and in the process of simplifying, you should just get back x. Okay? I hope this went well, and have a great break.